Everyone knows I'm very happy when we're live and it looks like it's working. We're streaming live to my Facebook page, and I always forget to introduce myself. So I breathe, that inhale, that exhale, and I say good morning from my world, good evening from my guest world in Colorado. Colorado, what an amazing part of the country. I'm streaming live from Israel. My name is Dr. Tova Goldfein. This is TMS Roundtable Recovery. Kevin, this is number 246, I think, shows. It's like a privilege. It's not work. It's like a privilege to be here. And I think you understand that.
Yeah. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'll have to check that number, but it's been amazing. And you will be now officially in my YouTube guest of honors.
Thank you.
This morning, my guest is Dr. Kevin Reichlin, not just even a handsome, wonderful, beautiful soul. I happen to meet people, and there's no happenstance. I was supposed to meet you, and I am very grateful for Facebook because I get to meet amazing people like you. And thank you, Facebook. Really, really, thank you very much. I bumped into Kevin because he's the author of this book, and like a buzz. Like for me, this is my bread and butter, like pain, superpower. And this was the name of his book. And I'm like, I got to meet this guy. And here's this humble guy from Colorado, on Facebook. And I call him. And of course, like you can connect to these famous people pretty quickly now because of social media and Facebook and WhatsApp. And I reach out to him, and his pain is your superpower. And we have a conversation, and the rest is history. I'm going to let Kevin speak about how he wrote his book and how he's a chiropractor for 30-something years. 40 years. Amazing. Yeah. And how myself as a chiropractor, we have some interesting historical connections, but how Kevin brought his chiropractic work into understanding the mind-body connection. And that's what happened to me. But this morning, we're talking about Kevin. So Kevin, start at hello. Tell me how it began. I mean, you were a chiropractor, and then you also saw people weren't always getting better, and you were like, what's going on? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Your morning, my evening. It really is one of my distinct, deeper pleasures to meet fellow human beings, practitioners, doctors, whatever you want to call us, people who care. At the end of the day, for me, the most important thing is about caring. I've thought for the longest time, we're called health care professionals. And, health is IQ. Diagnosis, pathology, treatment plans, all that kind of stuff. That falls under, health knowledge. But we're supposed to care. And so caring is I think it's an entire life's journey, learning to care more and more and more. So I like to think I'm a professional at it. And one of the reasons why I wrote a book, I wrote this book, I started writing it, I think 4 years ago now. I just had so many of my mostly patients telling me, Kevin, you should write. You say all this cool stuff and you study all this cool stuff, and I'm like, okay, and for a few years I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to write a book, and I just couldn't get it going, and then just magically one day it started, and it took a couple of years to write. So yes, I'm classically trained as a chiropractor. I went to the same school my father did. My father graduated from Palmer College 32 years before I did, in 1952. And so, as you can imagine, he and I had amazing conversations over the years. And if you go back to the very, very early days of chiropractic and the philosophy, it was all about connection. B.J. Palmer, who most of us know who he was, he had many sayings, but one of them was, how come you have two chiropractors treating the same condition, maybe even treating the same patient? How come one gets better results? And BJ used to say it was the chiropractor who could connect to the patient's innate intelligence better would get the better results. That's called caring. That's called connecting. And
Right.
so you know, as
And that's
I say,
chemical. And that's chemical. It's a chemical reaction.
it's all kinds of, it's chemistry. It's you know, I think there's more to energy of connection than just chemistry. I don't begin to understand it all, the physics of it. But for sure. So, you know, so growing up in a chiropractic household, all we talked about, well, not all, but much of what we spoke about around the dinner table was healthcare. My dad would tell us about patients he saw and da 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 da. And then from the time I was a little kid, he would take me, my brother, my sister into the office to help out. So, I mean, it really is all I've known since I was born.
Wow.
I'm told I was adjusted the day I was born. Of course, I don't remember it. And so, you know, and I say this in the book too. I love anatomy and physiology and pathology and chemistry and biochemistry. I love what human physiology is. And there's, you know, certainly in my early days, early on, it just started becoming more and more apparent to me that people have spines. Spines don't have people. So I don't work on spines. I work on people. I mean, I say that to my patients all the time. I go, I'm not going to work on your back. I'm going to work on you, but I'm not even going to work on you. I'm going to work with you and through you. And so if you're going to work on people, let me say it differently. And this is all due respect. If you really want to be a great technician, and God knows we need lots of great technicians, study your anatomy, physiology, joint biomechanics, all of that stuff. It's super important.
Yeah.
And if you want to work on people, you have to start understanding people. And guess where you start with? Yeah, yourself. And so, you know, probably like you, I've taken so many self-awareness, self-discovery, all kinds of courses throughout the years just to learn more about me. And in learning more about me, I learned about people. And so in doing that, I learned how to take care of people, not just conditions or spines. And so the title of my book, Your Pain is a Superpower. We all know somebody who's been in pain, either physically or emotionally, or maybe psychologically or even spiritually. And everybody I know in my life who's been through something painful or difficult and come through the other side comes through it wiser. And yet our entire healthcare system is designed to take that pain away as fast as possible. And I'm not saying it's fun. I'm not saying it's pleasant. I've had pain my share of times. I can't say I like it. I do find it interesting. But nowhere do I advocate for people to be in painful situations. However, if you're alive, it's going to happen. So as healthcare professionals, as doctors, instead of just quickly trying to get rid of the symptoms, get rid of the problem, what if we could find a way to help people understand what might be going on that's causing their pain beyond diet, beyond exercise, all of that stuff. And that's what my book is about.
Well,
You didn't interrupt me once.
I did once, but that's okay. Some people are counting and I'm very sensitive to it. And I'm working on my listening skills, but I get so excited about this work. Because you said, you know, what do you say about the spine? You said the spine, the people.
So I say people have spines. Spines don't have people.
So I just recently, you know, like I'm all full of these infographics and I send to my patients and I'm trying to remind them and have them create a new language between their conscious mind and their unconscious mind and try to, you know, think positive and bring a healthy relation. So what did I just hear? So profound. The symptom does not have you. You have the symptom. We feel because of the medical model that we're invaded by this pain of the symptom and we're stuck, we're imprisoned. But we have the symptom. We can relate to the symptom. We can change that symptom. So it's that relationship. It's that decision. You have the symptom. The symptom does not have you. And so it's a beautiful way to relate to our body. So,
For, oh,
so continue, because your book is about unlocking our powers, and our symptom and our pain is our power.
well, and remember, the second half of the title is learn to use it wisely. You know, again, back to, along the bottom there, you know, everybody I know who's been through something challenging, hard, painful, comes out of it with wisdom. You know, and by the way, sometimes it is, I need to eat better. Absolutely. Sometimes it is, I have to exercise. But I always say to them, what did you learn that taught you to actually, you always knew you needed to eat better, or you always knew you needed to exercise. What shifted so that you're actually eating better or actually exercising?
Yeah.
It's something deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's a very personal thing.
So important. Nobody, you know, we know from the stories about people's relationship with pain, and the soldiers when they're in pain, and, you know, how they relate, because we understand your relationship with pain can come from how you were brought up, or any traumas as a child, but also how you saw your parents deal with pain, how you saw your parents relate. You know, my mother didn't even have a thermometer in the house. You know, you put your hand on your head, and that's how you take a fever. And so I grew up not relating to it. My kids get upset with me because they think I don't care, because it's just more like, so go, you know, so it's a different relationship. And then I've learned that they need more attention, or, you know, this is one example of how we develop our relationship with pain. But some people have a more, people always say in our office, I have a high tolerance to pain. So that's not such a, like, what do you say to that? Let's move on that note.
So I ask them, first thing I always ask them is, I go, how does that serve you? I said, that may or may not, I say that may or may not be true, because, you know, first of all, how do you know compared to me? How do you know if you have a higher pain tolerance? So that always makes them stop a little bit. And then the second thing is, I go, has that served you really well? And then I always go, here's a little twist on it. Patients will come in and they'll say, I have a bad knee, for instance, or a bad back. And I work on a ton, or a bad stomach, or a bad migraines, or bad digestion. But I have a bad knee. I'll smile and I go, do you like being called bad? And they just look at me and I go, I don't think your knee likes being called bad either. You know, it's kind of fun, isn't it?
And it hears it. The knee hears it. This is what,
for sure.
Yeah, this is what we did in a show on sound frequency. And the healer was, we were talking about the rice experiment, the water experiment. I did this lemon experiment with my daughter, and we talked to the lemon, negative thoughts, and the lemon showed up mold, and the other lemon didn't. I was like, what do you mean the lemon has energy? Like, I had to learn this, you know, in my 60s, that the lemon had energy, because it's almost unbelievable. And to our listeners, it almost sounds new age. What do you mean? So I talk to my knee, or I talk to my shoulder. I don't like the way that my buttocks look, so I, frown at my body. Like, we don't understand the sensitivities between the brain and the body. And for some of us, it's a deeper connection, and we're more sensitive or less. And I call being sensitive your new strength.
I agree. You know, back to something sounding new agey. Here in Boulder, we sometimes call it woo-woo.
Yeah, I love it. Woo-woo.
Woo-woo, which is kind of fun. And first of all, I say, if something's new agey and woo-woo, but I can get results with it, I don't mind. I mean, as long as it's not outlandish or something like that. But you know, one of the things I talk a lot about in my office is, I oftentimes start with talking to my patients about muscle memory. And I don't know if you got to that in my book or not yet, but I'll say this to patients all the time. You know what muscle memory is, right? And they nod their heads and go, there's no such thing, right? And they look at me and I go, right? And they go, what do you mean? There's muscle memory. And I go, no, there's not. And they'll go, well, that's all we've ever heard. And I go, I hate to tell you, you've been told incorrectly. And so they say, well, and you know, they're confused. I go, so here's the deal. I said, if muscle memory truly exists, then how come, sadly, a person with a spinal cord injury can't walk? Nothing happened to the leg muscles. Where's the memory? Muscles have absolutely no memory capacity. They either contract or relax based upon what that motor nerve tells them to do, and recurrent sensory nerve. What tells that nerve what to do? The spinal cord, and that's why cord injuries are so devastating. What tells the spinal cord what to do? Your brain. And now it just got really complicated. Because sometimes your brain does what you want it to do based on what it's been taught. And sometimes your brain does things you don't want it to do based on what it's been taught. And so this is why everything I do goes back to brain, and as I like to say, psyche, which includes the mind and the emotions. But then they'll say to me, somebody will always say to me, well, why does it matter what we call it? And I tell the story of Lindsey Vonn. Do you know Lindsey Vonn, the skier?
Yes.
Yeah, so she retired a few years ago, and I happened to be watching TV, and they were filming her behind the start house, and she had her eyes closed, and she was visualizing. I say, do you think she was visualizing her golf game? No. Michael Jordan sometimes would go up to the free throw line, he would close his eyes, and he would go like that. Do you think he's visualizing his golf game?
No.
World-class athletes across the world of sports, the superstars, all of them, one of their major attributes has always been mental strength, right? If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us.
Right.
And so how you think about your body, what you think about your body plays a role in how your body performs. And that goes all the way back to, if you call your knee bad, guess what? It might just perform badly.
Yeah. Powerful, very powerful, very powerful. And so for our listeners, and I know that, you've met Dr. Schubiner, which was a coincidence. Nothing's a coincidence, but that when I spoke to you, you had actually delved into a little bit of my world. So it wasn't like we were even more connected. And I think you went to his office in Michigan.
In Detroit, yeah. For a couple of days, I watched him work with his folks.
Unbelievable. So I was looking in your book for different, relationships, some things we could talk about. We could talk all day, but the couple of things that I want to bring up is the feel set versus mindset, because, a lot of our work stemmed from Dr. John Sarno. And then many of the Dr. Sarno methods went further, which I am so happy to be. I never learned this. I mean, I might have slept through this class in chiropractic school, but I never remember learning. A lot about the emotions. And yet, of course, innate intelligence was very spiritual, deeply spiritual. I went to Sherman, which is a very, very philosophical school.
Very.
And but what I want to say to our listeners is that I don't think I really understood neuroplasticity about the brain, which I'm certified in pain reprocessing therapy, but more so the connection between our feelings and our emotions, because it could be kind of woo-woo, but it is science. So can you share about how you got to the feel set, which you call feel set versus mindset, and how feel set helps you heal? Because it may be a little bit new insight, like a new door for some of our listeners to take home about how to use their emotions and feelings to propel them, not to paralyze them, and how to understand themselves as a sensitive person, a sensitive, strong person.
Sure. I had an epiphany probably 7 or 8 years ago, or 9, somewhere around there. And the epiphany was, at that point, I'd been in practice, 32 years, let's say. And I'd seen tens of thousands of patients. I had never had one patient, not one patient, come into my office with the wrong mindset. Meaning, I never had one person come in my office and say, Dr. Reichlin, I am bound and determined to do whatever it takes not to get better. Have you? Never had one, have you?
Never.
And yet everybody is told you gotta be focused. You gotta have a mindset. Mind. And if you think about mindset, just the word, it's a mind that is set. And what that does, that rigidity of mindset closes the door to other possibilities. And so after I had that epiphany, and I've always thought we all know about the power of feelings. So I just coined a new word. I said, it's actually your feel set, how you feel about your experience, whether it's illness or pain or whatever. And so it's because all the power is in the emotions, right?
Yep.
I mean, thoughts are powerful, but they are a structure, but they're acted upon by the feelings. And yes, Sarno wrote about, TMS and all that kind of stuff. So I just decided to really differentiate the role of a mindset versus a feel set. And,
Very cool.
I think we talked about this last time I spoke with you, but did we talk about the 3 ways that you learn something?
No, but I would love for you to share it.
So,
I think I read something in your book about it.
yeah, a little bit. So there
Yeah.
are 3 factors that are required to learn anything. And by learning, I mean creating synapses. Like you and I both learned that 2 + 2 is 4, and that you live in a place called Israel, and I live in a place called Colorado. And that's what I mean by learning, is actually synapses. So there's 3 factors required. I have a funny book story. Just time out to tell you this. I sent my book to the publishers, and like 2 days after I sent it to the publishers, David Eagleman, he's a neuroscientist out of Stanford, published a book, beautiful book called Live Wired. It's a really great book. And in it, he talked about learning. And I'm like, oh God, please, please, please. I just sent my book. Don't tell me I'm wrong. And he didn't. He said the same thing. He said the same thing I'm about to say. So I was like, whoa, I'm okay. So 3 things required. First, you have to be exposed to it. You have to see it, smell it, touch it, taste it, or hear it. At least initially. Later on, through interoception, you might perseverate over something, but that's the exposure. So first is exposure. Second is repetition. The more you repeat something, the more likely you are to learn it. And
This is key.
What's the third one? Importance. The more important something is to you, the less repetition you need and the less exposure you need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, that might be. Is that something that Schubiner talks about? The Salient Network.
He talks about the Salient Network, but
Yeah.
you can't take the Salient Network away from the central executive network versus the default mode network and all those kind of things. So they all tie together.
Right,
That's a whole other conversation.
Right. But I just wanted the importance part is that because can we say that when we focus on something, we learn it more when we give it importance.
Sure. Absolutely. I always talk about, I'm an American, United States citizen. So we have 50 states. If you ask me what some of the state capitals are, I'll go, I don't know, because I don't care. I mean, right? But to a geographer, they would say, oh, the capital of North Dakota is, I don't even know. Fargo? See, I don't even know. But if you ask me about neuroscience, and how, the central executive network affects with the Salient Network, with the default mode network, I can blah, 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 because that's really important to me.
Yeah.
So exposure, repetition, and importance. So let's talk about pain.
Yeah.
So pain is exposed through the sense of touch, right? You don't see pain. You don't smell pain. You feel pain through the sense of touch. It happens with a lot of frequency. And it's really important because it's a drag.
Yeah.
You just ticked all the boxes for learning. I mean, think about that for a second.
Yeah.
You just ticked all the boxes for learning. So even if you have a fresh injury, you've torn something, you've tweaked something, whatever, and yes, there is inflammation causing your pain, but as soon as you make it really important, because it sucks, pardon my language, because it's a drag, you just started creating synapses around pain.
Yeah.
So what do we do with this knowledge? Go ahead.
So you started. So in Schrubiner's terms, because the book right here, "Unlearn Your Pain," is one of my Bibles, and we are in this world, and there are so many people suffering and struggling, and you just gravitate towards them, and so do I. And I just, all my heart, I just want to educate people, and so here we are. talking about learning pain, and it's not just I have pain and I want to get it better. The brain begins to make like a pathway, and this
Right.
is people's detriment. So we're saying here how it happens and how you can go to that place and walk like we know we're going to walk. We're not going to get rid of that pathway of pain. We're going to understand it. We're going to accept it, and we're going to build a stronger pathway.
Yeah, and here's how we do it. I don't know if I'll say stronger pathway. I say a different pathway.
Different.
So here's how we use those three things to our advantage. So I say this to my folks in my office. So once I start working with you, your pain may still continue for a while. Your tissue has to heal. You may have to rehabilitate. So that's not you're not in charge of that. And it still may happen with frequency. You're not in charge of that. How important you make it, you are in charge of. And so what I say to them is it's never about denial. It's about this. Oh, my back hurts right now. I mean, I pulled my lateral oblique muscle a couple days ago. It hurts right now. I'm not in denial about it, but I'm not like, oh my God, is it ever gonna end? And da 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 da. So just by doing that, you stop adding more synapses to that pain pathway. And here's the second half. So you may not be in charge of the pain, and you may not be in charge of the frequency, but you're in charge of this. Everybody who has pain or chronic pain, it goes like this throughout the day. Some days they have better moments, some days they have worse moments. I tell all my patients, you're about to laugh what I'm about to do, but here's what I want you to do. When you notice that you're feeling a little bit better, I want you to go, oh my God, I'm actually like 1% better. This is amazing. I am 1% better. See, you're laughing as everybody does. Which synapses would you rather create? I'm 1% better or I still hurt? And based on this thing called lateral shift. So that's the term with like a stroke, when you kill a part of the brain and another part of the brain takes over, we call it a lateral shift. And so when you start creating synapses of I'm 1% better, I'm 2% better, I'm 3% better, what happens over here to the pain synapses? They start letting go. To Howard's title, that's how you unlearn your pain.
Wow.
And you're in charge of, it's just very simple. I say this all the time. This is not Kevin's Boulder woo-woo cosmic da-da-da-da-da. Right. This is Eagleman, Huberman, Lisa Feldman Barrett, beautiful, beautiful.
Amazing, amazing.
We all just borrow from one another. I just make it really simple and how you can apply it to pain. You are in charge of that third one, how important you make it.
Kevin, it's just so speaking my language. I don't know how to respond. It's so, and I, where do people start? Okay, somebody's Steve's visiting. He's in Australia because I think it's morning in Australia. I forget the time, but so good to see you, Steve. Steve started a Facebook page with a couple of million people. It's about men's health. Like letting men talk about health, which, it's letting men express themselves, which we're back to the expression, we're back to the feelings. And Steve is an amazing guy in somewhere in the down under in Australia.
Hi, Steve. Nice to meet you, even though I haven't met you yet.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to say that, okay, some of our listeners are in a lot of pain, level 8 to 10. And some of them have some autoimmune symptoms that they know are not going to get better through the medical system. They're medically unexplained symptoms. They're not responding to, and medicine is okay. We're not against medicine. You and I, we're about integrating. But there are people who are suffering and struggling with all sorts of mind-body symptoms because of the body living in a state of threat. And, so it's not so easy to like, okay, I feel safe. Okay, I'm going to bring safety. This is not working for some people because the body's keeping score. So how do we speak? How can you share a few words about some of our clients who come into our world who there's deeper stuff going on. There's resistance. There's enormous fear. There's enormous anger because they were able to get rid of this and they didn't get rid of this and it's back again, and the TMS worked with Sarno a year ago and now it's back, or they're getting off some medication and they're weaning and they're having some side effect. And the medical world is not helping because they're Googling this. And here we are saying we have the solution. We're bridges. You and I are bridges to bring people the solution. We want on my business card, it says the doctor in you. I want you to take this. I want you to be the fisherman.
Right.
But what can you say to these people? Because even Tribunner will say, well, 40% are not figuring it out. They're not getting it so easy. They're struggling. So let's speak to the 40% of the people that we do meet and are not having a book cure. What do we say to that,
Right.
Kevin?
Well, there's several things I would say to what you just spoke to. First of all, I'm just gut level honest with every person that comes into my office. I say, look, I have a good success rate. And what does that mean? Sometimes a success for a person who's a level 7 or 8, let's say a person who's a level 8 in pain, sometimes a success is dropping them down to a 6. Now, to the rest of us, we go, that's not much. That's not a success. That sucks. You didn't take them down to a 0. I go, maybe to you, to that whoever is complaining, but to that person who's an 8, and you can drop them to a 6, a bunch of stuff happens right there. One, you give them some positivity. You know what I mean? Meaning, oh my gosh, if I can go from an 8 to a 7, maybe I can go 7 to a 6 or 6 to a 5. But I don't know. How could I know? I don't have a crystal ball or whatever. What I can tell the folks who come see me is, I know how to help you understand yourself better. And in doing that, that's at least a doorway in. So that's one thing I'd say. The second thing is, I have experienced in my career and in my life, everybody has a doorway in. I just have to find it. I will say I'm faster and better at finding it now than I was 10, 20, 30 years ago. Everybody has a doorway into their being, their psyche. And I just have to find it. And once I find it and they crack open, that's the start of the whole thing. So, and I tell people that. I go, sometimes I'll say in my office, you can call me voodoo, you can call me wizard. I don't mind. It's kind of fun. I go, but what you'll never call me is uncaring, because I care to the point where, by the way, I believe one of the reasons why a lot of doctors and healthcare professionals don't care as much is because, I don't know about you, but I'll bet this holds true for you. When somebody I work with doesn't get better, it really hurts.
Yeah.
It's not fun. And so, and I use that. It drives me to keep reading and keep studying, because I don't get everybody better. I'm just 100% honest about that. But back to that person who's an 8 and a constant 8, if we can just connect somehow, we can start the process of helping them understand what's in the way of them getting in. Yeah. And so, I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, it does. And it's so we're asking these people to find a coach they trust, because this relationship between a coach and a doctor and the patient is so powerful. And don't go alone. You need support. Your brain needs support. Your psyche needs to feel support, whether it's a walking stick or a back brace, or special mental gel. I don't care what it is, but your body needs support physically, chemically, physiologically, neurologically. It's screaming, I need support. And so if you do, hire a coach, have a relationship with that person that you feel safe, and then allow that person to help you go find that door. And also, we have to say, once you get to the door, then you're going to have to walk the walk.
It's
and
true.
talk the talk, because it's
true.
Not hard or easy. It's just, this is your journey. And I was discussing with someone on Facebook, I don't use the word cure. I leave that up to God. But because I think that, a mind-body healing is a journey. It's not black and white, because we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about feelings, we're talking about emotions. And so I'm going to go back to feel set, because we know the pattern is when the pain leaves, and then you're going to deal with another deeper, beautiful layer, you, and how you relate to your body and how your emotions and how your unconscious mind, and safety threat, which is, one of David Hanscom's big thing. He doesn't like the word mind body, he calls it safety threat. And we're talking neurologically, how to develop a new neurocircuit where you can default to, like, I'm safe. And again, people are like, okay, doc, I'm going to say I'm safe. And it doesn't always work when you say I'm safe, because it's like, are you safe? Or I'm really physiologically, neurologically able to bring safety. And this is a learned relationship.
Right.
So let's go back to feel set and how you help people feel. Go ahead.
Yeah, like feel safe. So one of the things I talk about is a feel set memory. And so I say, find time in your life where you felt safe. Now, I will say that I have patients who were, in horrible family situations from the time they were children. They've never felt safe. And so I go, all right, we're not going to work with safety then, because you've never felt safe. So tell me a time in your life where you felt happy. Everybody can find at least something. Tell me a time in your life when you felt peaceful. And so I call that I go, look, let's flesh that out. So I'll try to make this quick.
No, don't make it quick. I want all the details.
So my go-to feel set memory when I'm in pain is what I call my barn memory. So when I was 19 years old, I lived on a farm in New Hampshire. I used to drive and train Belgian and Clydesdale draft horses. We farmed with them. It was I have a really interesting resume. Yeah. At one point, if I'd gone to Budweiser, they would have hired me because of the boss who taught me. But I didn't go. So one rainy day, it was my turn to feed the cows. So I went up the ladder into the hayloft. I threw some hay over for the cows. And I had 5 minutes to myself, which actually isn't true, because never in farming do you have 5 minutes for yourself. But I took 5 minutes and I created a hay bale like chair. And I just leaned back. And so with this feel set memory, what did I hear? What I heard was rain hitting a tin roof. Ding, 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 ding. And when I play that memory now in my mind, what my body remembers was how peaceful and quiet and calm it was. What did I see? When I looked down, I saw cows chewing their cud, their jaws going in a direction. And when I play that visual memory in my mind, my body remembers quiet, peaceful, and calm. What did I smell? I smelled barnyard manure, which I love. I love the smell of barnyard. And when I play that olfactory memory over, my body remembers that time of peace, quiet, calm. I don't have a taste because I wasn't eating anything. What did I feel? I was leaning against a hay bale, and the hay was kind of sticking through my shirt. And even though you might think that was irritating, when I play that tactile memory in my mind, my body remembers how quiet and peaceful it was. So what I do is I teach people to find a memory somewhere from back along the way when they were either peaceful or happy. One of my patients recently couldn't find a peaceful memory. So I said, do you have a happy memory? She said, yes, I went on a road trip with my girlfriends in college. We had a blast. I said, what did you see? She said, I saw my girlfriends laughing. I said, great. Close your eyes, remember that memory, and embody that sense of happiness in your body. And she did. I said, what did you hear? She said, Taylor Swift music. I said, awesome. I said, close your eyes and remember that Taylor Swift song and feel that happiness in your body. And what did you feel? She said, our hair blowing in the wind. So you get the idea. What I have patients do is I have them develop a strong feel set memory that includes embodiment. And so when they feel pain, all they have to do is go to their barn memory, or go to their car memory, or their beach memory, and we've been taught that the only reason we use our memories is for data recall. No, they're there to be used. You can use past experiences and bring them into the current moment and then embody them. And so that's where feel set and feel set memory comes into play.
Elaborate more. I mean, for example, because this is a big thing. Because sometimes when people are in pain, I ask them. I think many of us coaches are asking people to take a deep breath. We know from chiropractic when we exhale, there's a whole pharmacy inside of our body. We're creating all
Sure.
these. I said, create your own antidepressant, create your own cannabis, create your own anti-inflammatory by just that exhale. It's like, okay, doc, that's not working. And then we might say that, well, then focus on it in a safe way, or sometimes you can just ignore it, just go to another thought. And that's what you're saying. And I think neurologically, if
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you.
Please.
You go to another thought to elicit a feeling.
Okay.
So by the way, I don't like the term mind body because it leaves out emotions.
Amazing.
We need to call it mind, emotion, body.
Amazing.
Mind, it's all head. And so, yes, I encourage people to elicit a memory that has connected to it a sense of, if we're lucky, safety. If not safety, peaceful. If not peaceful, quiet. If not quiet, happy. Anything other than the negative emotions we normally associate with pain, fear, anger, and sadness.
Exactly. And so if they go to that happy or peaceful or somehow different thought, I believe, and I'm asking you this question, isn't it true that the brain can only focus on one thing at a time? So if they're focusing on their happy, peaceful feeling thought, even if it's their sadness, even if it's their like they feel fearful, if they're focusing on it in this calming way, they won't feel the pain. Isn't this neurological that they can't focus on two things at one time? Isn't this what we spoke about with, can you break that down to me?
Well, sure. It's very similar to, I think, Howard Schubiner and Alan Gordon. No, Alan.
Gordon.
No, well, is it Gordon? Is he the LCSW?
Yeah. He's the guy with the way out, and he's taught me. He's teaching the course Pain Reprocessing Therapy and the movie, the brain pain movie.
Yep. And he talks about somatic tracking. Yeah. So if you focus on something else, of course your brain and I believe that MRI, functional MRI, speaks to this as well. The various pain centers of your brain back down a little bit because now you're thinking about something else.
Yeah,
and it does work. So here's what I hear all the time. Yeah, but it only worked for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
and here's what I say. Yes, it worked for 2 seconds. If you can get 2 seconds, do you think maybe we can get to 3? And so I say this to my folks all the time. I am always up against pharmaceutical expectations. You can take a pill, you can get an injection, and your pain will go away like that, and you didn't have to do any work. Thank God for pharmaceutical intervention when it's necessary. But after a while, it won't work, as we all know. So yes, people go, it was only 2 seconds. And I go, but it was 2 seconds. What if you can go to 3 or 5? And you alluded to this earlier. You only have the skills you have. If you don't know how to embody or elicit a sense of safety, then it's silly to tell you to do that. But what if I can teach you that?
Right.
And I can. Right. I through a variety of ways. Even if you've never felt safety, there's some things that I can do to help you start understanding what that feeling is. And then how do you start bringing it into this?
Right. And we really are empowering. I mean, what your book taught me and what it confirmed and what I learned, I learned a lot of things I already knew, but I learned so much more. And it taught me that this world that we're in, that there's a doctor in everyone. And you will not hear that from your medical doctor. You will not get that kind of coaching. I mean, Kev, you and I are really, we're relentless coaches and relentless cheerleaders because we believe so much in the power of the human body. And even one that's ill, The body knows the solution before the problem. The body was well. The body knows how to get well. The body strives for wellness. And so, and our thoughts, because of who we are individually, will create that resistance that you're not the doctor, that you can't do this, but we're saying you can, and yes, 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 which is on the back of your wall. Like you can, you can,
Oh
you
yeah.
can. And every morning I'll text my clients and be like, what's your affirmation today? You know, if you need to get a tattoo, and I have pictures of all these tattoos from my patients because, we're working on their back and we're seeing everything. And, tattoos is a real expression. And, last night my patient had, it's a new dawn. I mean, whatever, like inspiration, hope. I've seen unbelievable tattoos. And if that's what you need to do because we are training a brain that is scared, that feels unsafe, that is angry, feels like a victim. We are asking you to, to understand that you are a victor, and that the victim is coming from a place of fear. We've all been there. And so we're asking you to tap into your superpower because it's there. It's kind of like what took you down the rabbit hole because you wanted to get better. And sometimes the medical system will be amazing. We're supporting the medical system. But we know that in our work, it's about a decision. And sometimes, like this gentleman was on my show and he wrote a book, Rapid Recovery. And his big thing is, he healed years of chronic pain. His big thing was, you need to have a vision of what you want to do. Like you want to get better. And he wanted to lift his 4-year-old daughter. He couldn't lift her. This is what the mindset is in athletes, because he studied athletes also. Like
Sure.
they have, talk about that a little bit more. Like the vision will take you far. Like the pain will not, it will hurt. You will not feel comfortable. We're not asking you to um, let me change my train of thought. Let me go back to the athlete mind of thinking. So this gentleman wrote a book called Rapid Recovery, and one of his big things was have a goal. Let's go back to the mindset, feel set, because we are talking about our thoughts and our mind. So we have to live with our mind. We're not here to get rid of our mind. We're here to integrate feel set and mindset. So in your book, it's called Feel Set versus Mindset. Talk a little bit more about the feelings, because we're talking about people who are scared, angry, frustrated, sad, guilt-ridden.
Sure. Just to be clear, I have no problem with mindset. I've had mindset all my life. My mindset is keep learning, and I've had other mindsets too, but it's not just that. And I alluded to that earlier when I said that's why I really don't like calling it mind body, because we're ignoring the feeling realm.
Very important.
Howard Schubiner was the one that taught me this. He talks about the chronic pain cycle. I added an element to it, but when you feel pain and you suddenly go, this is wrong and bad, whenever your brain experiences wrong and bad, it goes into fight or flight mode. And what does fight or flight mode do to pain? It accentuates it, it amplifies it. And so for the people who are sad or angry or afraid, all of it 100% legitimate. Absolutely. I don't need to share my own experiences with pain that I've had. Sometimes when I've had a few painful experiences that got kind of long, it was like, is this ever going to end? And I teach this stuff and I get frustrated, but then I also know how to calm myself down. So again, sadness or fear or anger are absolutely legitimate, but how do we turn those into our advantage instead of having them constantly putting the brain back into fight or flight mode, which just perpetuates the problem? Yeah. One of the first ways I do it is by saying what I just said to whoever. Your anger, your sadness, and your fear are absolutely legitimate. I completely understand. You have every right to feel that way. Now, do you know what that's doing to you? But first, validate, because it's real. It is real. I'm not blowing smoke up my butt. You have to validate people because it's real. It's right that they have these feelings, but nobody's taught them what those feelings are doing to perpetuate their pain. And since nobody's taught them, they don't know how to do it. And since they come to see me, I say, this is going to take some time, because it's like teaching you to race a bicycle uphill. I have to teach you how to do intervals. I have to teach you how to, out of the saddle. I have to teach you, blah, blah, blah. The analogy falls short. But it is a skill set that people will have to learn. And some people, it's just, I definitely have people who I'll talk to them about that and they go, I don't want to do all that. I'm like, totally cool. Oh my gosh. Then they'll ask me, what else should I do? And I go, I don't know. Because you've already tried everything else. You probably use this in your office. I'll say this to folks a lot. I go, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for different results. I go, at least if you work with me, you're doing something different.
Yeah. And you're also reflecting, you're asking them to participate in a way that no doctors really ask. This is their journey. This is their relationship with their body and their superpower. And we know scientifically that the body is the unconscious mind. And so how do you see this, where the feelings so our pain is an emotion. Pain is an emotion. This is where I think the feel set. Pain is an emotion.
Sure. So another way to play with that is setting aside neurodegenerative disorders, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, etc. Set those aside from what I'm about to say, because I don't know about those. But all of those aside, what if everything your brain does, everything your brain creates is in your service? Think about that. Again, aside from the neurodegeneratives, Alzheimer's, Lou
And
Gehrig's,
by the way, I've met practitioners and even interviewed a scientist from Belgium, and they're working with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's because there's a huge mind, body, emotional component in every condition, because we are human beings.
Of course, of course.
To say that again. So aside from some of the more, but we're talking about your relationship with your body.
Right. And particularly your relationship with your brain. What if everything your brain does is in service to you? Meaning everything your brain does is to try and keep you alive, keep you safe, keep you functioning, all that kind of stuff. If that's true, I believe it is, and I'm not the only one who feels this way, then where does pain fall into that? Pain is there to get your attention to look at something. Now, fresh pain. If I'm out riding my bicycle here in beautiful Boulder, Colorado, and I take a turn too fast and I wipe out on my bike and I break my wrist, right? So obviously my brain is saying to me, go to the hospital. But is that the only message? Maybe my brain is also saying to me, maybe you should slow down. Just kind of thinking about it. Why do you have to go so fast? On and on and on and on. But if the brain is always in service to you, if your brain is always in service to you, then calling it wrong and bad for creating pain, you're fighting yourself. You're going like this because your brain's saying, no, the brain will turn on more pain. I want you to look at something. What is it? That's the process of biopsychology and diving in and all kinds of things. But I can only tell you in my experience, and you've seen it with Shabiner and probably in your own experience, I've had so many patients I never touch. I don't adjust them. I use lasers a lot in my practice. I don't laser them. I have people I see over Zoom calls like this. It's not a one-shot deal. I have to do a fair amount of work with people, oftentimes over several weeks, but I'm not even in the same room with them. And all we do is just have them start changing their relationship with their brain and their body and their emotions.
Yeah.
Did that
This,
answer your question? I'm not sure.
yeah, 100,000 times you answered it. Yeah, and many other questions. But I have a personal, professional question.
Sure.
I like to say to people, and maybe I'm exaggerating because my kids will always say, Mom, you're exaggerating a little bit. Could you come back to reality? So, but I like to say that the brain is a piece of flesh.
Okay.
It's a piece of flesh. It's a machine. It's been trained over centuries, and it's evolved. I mean, I didn't study neurology in that way in chiropractic school, and a lot of my work with neuroplasticity is in the last 10 years. I have a lot to learn, but it is an organ that is changeable, and it's a machine, not a machine, but it's a computer that we can, what's the word I want to say? So we are in charge of it. We can change it. We
Sure.
can affect it at any point.
If we know how.
Yeah.
If we know how.
Yeah.
But no, completely. If you think about it, we've only known that the brain is neuroplastic since 1995, I think was one of the first studies that came out. John Alden, of all people, he was a PhD psychologist, I think.
Yeah.
We've only known it for 30 years? We're up against centuries of being told that, we're a fixed, done deal. So it's really new information in some ways, but we have so much agency. We just may not know how to do it. And that's your job. That's my job, is to teach our folks how to do this.
I love that term agency. I saw it a number of times in your book. How do you use that term agency?
How do I what?
How do you use that term that we have agency? It's a new concept for me.
Oh,
that we have agency.
I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer your question. I've just always used that to have, why I started using it because I got tired of the word empowered.
Yeah.
I heard the word, empowerment so much, and I just got tired of it. Yeah. And it got, and having to be truly empowered is a really deep-seated feeling. To have agency in your life is a big deal. And so now that I hadn't thought of this in a while, but I got so tired of the word empowerment tossed around. I said, and I heard the word agency, and I said, oh, I like that better. So
no, and we're getting back to something I talk about with Michael Galinsky a lot when he comes on the show, the director and star of All the Rage. And we'll always talk about that. It comes down to, this is a relationship with yourself. This is, your symptoms, for however, from A to Z, one of the best medicines is to understand your relationship with your body. And I talk to people that heal cancer, and it reminds me, I want to say something about something you say in your book, but who heal cancer, and how they do it is by loving their cancer. And so there's this, we're back to the love, we're back to the communication, the language, we're back to what the brain is hearing. The brain is your brain. It's your, so, but I want to talk about what you said. You said cancer is not let me say it. Cancer is not a sentence, it's a word. Is that what you said in your book?
Yeah, so actually, that was my editor. So my editor had colon cancer, and he's the one that said that in my book, and I love that term. Right. And that was his oncologist told him that. Said, just because you have, my editor, Kurt, just because you got diagnosed with colon cancer, don't just hang on to that word. There's a whole sentence here, right? There's a whole paragraph. Matter of fact, there's a whole life to be lived.
Right.
And so, so I give that, I have to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
That was my editor.
You said it in the book. You were talking to somebody and they said cancer is not a sentence, it's just a word. And pain is not a bad thing, especially neuroplastic pain. Acute pain gets better. I have a bottle of Advil in my, I keep them in my pocketbook. We're not against pain. We're not saying don't feel pain. We're saying understand it. We're saying see it as it's not, the body's not punishing you. And this is back to the relationship and accepting awareness. We're back to like this interaction with you and your body when you are struggling, you are suffering. And wow, there's so much you just, for this my morning time to be this full of information, and I want you to get a good night's sleep. So I'm going to round out. And how's your voice feeling? And thank you so much for.
Oh, it feels fine. It doesn't hurt at all. My beautiful singing voice is not here right now.
Yeah, got it. Well, we're not going to sing. We're going to end up this show with a few more words. Sing. Right. Kevin, you are available on Facebook if somebody wants to reach you. You have a Facebook page. This is your book. I've been advertising it all over my profile. It's really bringing out the best in me. Not only is it my colors, but it's such a fabulous, fabulous title. And it comes from it. You're like, I asked you when I first met you, like, I want to write a book. And what did it take? And you told me to start writing words. And I'm always so impressed with somebody who works so hard, has a family, a home and career, and you take time to write the book. And that's part of my little whining session here is I would love to write a book, and you inspire me so much. And so if people want to speak to you, there's a Facebook page with your name, Kevin Reichlin. Yep. You have a beautiful website. I saw it, and your book is available on Amazon. For a few dollars. It's an easy read.
Yes, it is.
It says that it's like, and I love it says that this book shares more than the hows and whys of your pain. It also provides a roadmap to what you could do specifically to accelerate your healing progress. And so it's not the quick fix, but it's asking you to go hand in hand with this book, or with Kevin, or with me, or whoever you want to bring along, or with your own, healer, your own inner healer, to be patient also about your pain, to be loving and patient and compassion, which is the first time we mentioned this word, such an important, and it's self-compassion is science. This is a scientific. Gratitude is scientific. This is what we're talking about when we speak to our body. So what would you like to leave our listeners with? And what would you like to say in closing?
So I would say this. I have never liked, I hope this isn't anathema, but I don't like hope. Hope to me is in the future. And so I don't want to give people hope, but I also wish to give people the knowledge that there are other opportunities out there. I'm not saying they're easy. I'm not saying they're fast. Sometimes they are easy and sometimes they're fast, but sometimes they take time. Matter of fact, more often than not, they take time. So instead of offering hope, because again, that's for something in the future. Right now, I'm not the only one. There's me, there's you, there's Shabiner, there's the Psychophysiological Pain Society. There are so many doctors, healthcare providers, coaches out there who are available to help you, whatever pain you're in. And so look around, contact me, contact you. We're around, but it's going to take some work. It's not, one of the chapters in my book is entitled Simply Effort. And so my editor, Kurt, I love him dearly. He helped me soften a lot of my book. He said, it's too doctory, too, But when we got to the chapter effort, he said, we got to soften that a little bit. I said, no. I said, because we've all been taught that you don't have to put work in. And I go, no, you have to put in effort. I'm sorry, I don't know a shortcut around that. But if you're willing to put in some effort, you can get results.
Yeah. Beautiful. So there's nothing I can say because you're talking again about the relationship between yourself and your healing, yourself and your pain, yourself and your condition. And I am a little bit about hope and
So it's
just,
okay. It's just my own
yeah.
personal thing.
No, guess what? You and I can disagree and not have a war. This is what's beautiful about me and you, So
Absolutely.
I am just about believing in yourself. And that's what your book is
Yes.
about.
Yep.
And so you can call it anything you want. You can make up your own word. So to our listeners, to our future patients, to our past patients, to our present patients, I just encourage you to keep an open mind. Like we're reaching a lot of people who have no idea that about their brain and no idea that their body's a superpower, their pain, but that we can reach them through the energies of the quantum, and that people can wake up and be, and not give up. So the effort is also not giving up. Effort.
Agreed.
So one more day, one more day, one more day. Yeah, and practice, repetition, repetition, repetition. Steve, I'm going to give you. You're going to become a doctor, Dr. Steve Monday. Anyway, so thank you so much. I am so thrilled. You just made this hour so wonderful, and I learned so much, and I am so grateful. I am so blessed to be on the other end, and you have blessed my studio with your knowledge and your wisdom and your humility. And we haven't even talked about your biking and that you worked with, like, we could come back and have a whole show about sports, because people need to be moving. They need to move their body. They need to move into the fear. They need to, feel the pain and feel the fear and do it anyway. And that's a whole nother story. And maybe that's my book, So thank you so, so very much. Have a wonderful night. We'll meet
You're
again.
welcome.
God bless everybody. And I'll send you this so you can share it with your amazing clients and patients who are so lucky to be on the other side of you and to partner with you. Thank you so much.
Yep. So many blessings to you. Have a good rest of your day.
All the best.
All right. Bye now.
1 second. 1 second.